Hi girls, today we are going to see about the concept evolution of microprocessor. Already in my last class I discussed about what is microprocessor. Microprocessor is a computer central processing unit on a single chip that contains millions of transistors connected by wires. So this is called a microprocessor. This is very tiny and collections of many millions of transistors are connected through wires is called a microprocessor. So the microprocessor, what is the evolution of microprocessor means? Now we are in the year of 2020. So we use the things in miniature sizes like laptop, mobile phone and all those things are only in miniature sizes. But in the very past years, these systems are not in very small size. These are all in very big. These are all in very big sizes. Why these gadgets are in big size? Because of the internal parts of the computers are very large on the past dates. Because the microprocessor are used just only microprocessor were developed only at the third generation of the computers only. Now we are using the fourth generation computers. Fifth generation computer is also developed. The robots and other AI used systems are called as the fifth generation computers. These computers are sensing like are human beings. Those systems are called the fifth generation computers. Most in schools and colleges nowadays we are using only the fourth generation computer. Like that, the generations of microprocessor also developed from 1970s to till now. So in this concept we are going to see about what are all the developments in the microprocessor. Now I am going to tell about the concepts of only microprocessor evolution. This means the history of the microprocessor from 1970s to till how the manufacturers developed the microprocessors. So in this video I'm going to tell about the corporation name Intel Corporation. Intel is a corporation in USA. They manufactured first microprocessor. Not only Intel, many other companies also manufacturing microprocessor from past itself. For example, Zilog, Motorola, IBM. So that a lot of companies were manufactured microprocessor. But the Intel was one of the leading company, those who manufacturing microprocessor. You also notice that in your laptops or in your systems there is a logo Intel Core, Intel Pentium. So what is that? That is called the microprocessor used on that CPU. Because computers are not a single unit. Computer is always assembled part of many hardware together by means of a screen. Screen is also one part of the computer, the keyboard and then the CPU. In CPU we have large smaller units are assembled together. So one of the most important one is this processor. Without processor the CPU can't run, because only we call the microprocessor is the brain of the computer system. Okay, so let's go to see about the generations or the history of Intel microprocessor. So here you see in this first picture the content, introduction, and then Intel 4004, 8008, 8080, 8085. These are all the names of the microprocessor. So what is mean by Intel 8085 means number of bits that a processor can be processed at a time is called the 4 bit, 8 bits, 16 bit. Nowadays we are using 64 bits of computers. What is it 64 bit? What is 4 bit means? The CPU can process a 4 bits of word at a second. Like that, 8 bit means a CPU can process 8 bits at a second. So like that, the microprocessor were developed the speed of the computing systems. Okay, first see the introduction. The first microprocessor was introduced in the year 1971 by Intel Corporation. It was a 4-bit microprocessor. I already told that 4-bit means the processor can process 4 bits of data only at a second, at a minute. After that, an enhanced version of Intel 4004 developed. Other companies like Toshiba, Rockwell also developed 4-bit microprocessor. Not only Intel, at the same time, the year 1971, the other companies like Toshiba, Rockwell also developed 4-bit microprocessor. And then in 1972, Intel introduced the first 8-bit microprocessor. So here you can see the word 8-bit. It means the microprocessor can process 8 bit at a time. Okay, Intel 8008 was the second introduced by the Intel Corporation. It was used the PMOS technology. This processor was slow and not compatible with TTL logic. TTL logic means transistor logic. So Intel introduced a faster NMOS microprocessor, that is 8080. Okay, but the main drawback of the Intel 8080 was that it required 3 power supplies. Hence, in 1975, Intel developed an improved version of 8080 called 8085. So, in this book, in your textbook, we are going to say about the concepts of Intel 8085 microprocessor programs only. Okay, next. And then the first x86 processor was developed in 1979 by Intel and was called the Intel 8086. It is also used in many laboratories and colleges nowadays also. In our Bhadas University also we had the syllabus for PG, this 8086 microprocessor programming. After that, the Intel launched update versions of 8086, 8088, 8186. These are all the 8088 or 16-bit microprocessor. 80286 are 24-bit microprocessor, and then 80386 are 32-bit microprocessor. In the bracket you can see the bit numbers. These are all what means a computer can process. A computer or a microprocessor can process a 32-bit at a second. 24-bit means a CPU can process a 24-bit a second. So this will denote the processing capacity or the speed of the computers. So the 16-bit is slower than 24-bit, 24-bit is slower than 32-bit, and 32-bit is slower than 64-bit. So now in the fifth generations we are using 64 bits of microprocessor too. After launching this processor, Intel launching Pentium processor, which was big step in the evaluation of microprocessor. After Pentium, Intel Core Duo was introduced by Intel Corporation. And now in this generations, now means in 2020, 2019 and 2018 onwards, Intel introduced i3, i5 and i7 processor are ruling in present generation of microprocessor, which is also introduced by Intel. So this is the first Intel's microprocessor. Its name is called Intel 4004. It means it processes only 4 bits at a second, so it is called 4004. In the year of 1972, Intel introduced this 4-bit microprocessor. It can only process 45 instructions only. Was the first programmable device which was used in these calculators. And one more thing I want to say here is microprocessor used the programming languages of assembly language only, not the high level languages. Assembly level language programs only used in this microprocessor devices. And then in the year 1972, Intel introduced 8008 microprocessor. It is 8-bit version of 4004. It has 48 instructions. It was very slow. So that the Intel introduced another microprocessor, Intel 8080, in the year of 1973. It is also a 8-bit microprocessor. It has the instruction set of 500,000 instructions, 10 times faster than 8008. Its drawback was it needs 3 power supplies. So after that, Intel introduced another microprocessor called Intel 8085 in the year of 1975. It is also an 8-bit microprocessor, upgrading version of 8080. Its memory is 64 KB. It uses 246 instructions. Intel sold 100 million copies of this microprocessor. So this is one of the successful microprocessor successful one for the Intel Corporation. Till now also we are using in laboratories this 8085 for students for the laboratory processing. And then in the year 1978 Intel introduced 8086, and in the year 1979 Intel introduced 8088 microprocessor. These two microprocessors are 16-bit microprocessors. It has the main memory of 1 megabits, 400 nanoseconds clock cycle per time, 6 bytes instruction cache for 8086 and 4 byte for 8088. So in 1981, IBM decided to use 8088 in its personal computers. Okay, Intel introduced the 8088 microprocessor. In the year 1981, IBM decided to use this 8088 for their computers. And then 80186 Intel microprocessor was introduced in the year 1982. It is also a 16-bit microprocessor. It contains a special hardware like programmable counters, interrupt controller, etc. So you are all see in our future classes what is programmable counters, interrupt controllers and all those things. And then the next microprocessor introduced by Intel was 80286 in the year 1983. It is a 16-bit high performance microprocessor. And then another microprocessor introduced by Intel is 80386 in the year 1986. Intel first practical 32-bit microprocessor. This is the Intel first 32-bit microprocessor because it can process at 32 bits at a second. So you can understand how fast it will be compared to the 4-bit, 8-bit and 16-bit. This is the faster one at that time. 1986 Intel used this microprocessor. Include memory paging and enhancing operations also used in that. And then the next microprocessor, Intel 80486, introduced in the year 1989. It is also 32-bit high performance microprocessor. Microprocessor. It has the 4 GB main memory, and after that Intel introduced another microprocessor called Intel Pentium. You are also heard this name, Intel processor, Intel Pentium. I think most of the students you heard this word. It was introduced in the year 1993. It is also a 32-bit microprocessor. We can use these two 32-bit microprocessor combinations as a 64-bit database also. This is a dual integer processor. And then Intel introduced a Pentium Pro processor in 1995. It is also 32-bit microprocessor. It has main memory of 64 GB, 64-bit database. So the processing capacity of this microprocessor are very high compared to the previous ones. And the previous ones means the 24-bit, 64-bit microprocessor. Compared to the past, this Intel Pentium Pro was very fast computing capacity. And then in 1997, Intel introduced another microprocessor called Intel Pentium 2. It is also a 32-bit microprocessor, 64 GB main memory. And then it has a version of P2 called Xeon. It is also called as the Xeon microprocessor. I think most of the students also heard this name also, Xeon microprocessor. Next, Intel introduced the Intel Pentium 3 in the year of 1999. It is also a 32-bit microprocessor. It is also called as P3. Was available in clock frequency of microprocessor to 1 GHz of memory. And then Intel introduced the Pentium 4 microprocessor in the year 2002. It is also 32-bit microprocessor. It has a very high processing capacity compared to the previous microprocessors. 64 GB main memory, 1.4 to 1.9 GHz of threading and all those things are in this microprocessor. It is specially used for streaming video games and DVD applications. And then in the year 2006, Intel introduced Intel Dual Core 2. It is also 32-bit. We can combine these two. We can combine two 32-bit as a 64-bit microprocessors. So it has a very fast working capability. So Adobe Photoshop and all those things are used in this microprocessor only. And then Intel introduced Intel Core i3 year of 2009. It is also a 32-bit microprocessor. And then i3, i4, i7 and all those things are introduced by Intel Corporation. These are the very intelligent and fast working performance of the computer systems. Thank you.